Good evening, everyone. Today is June 29th, 2016. It is 7:30 p.m. Central. This is the vmware.com vBrownbag US edition. Our show tonight is about using Puppet Showoff, and the guest is Ben Ford. He is at BenFord2K on Twitter, BINFORD2K. So anyhow, if you're new to the vBrownbag, feel free to follow us on Twitter. We are at vBrownbag. You can join the vBrownbag conversations at hashtag vBrownbag. We have a number of podcasts that run globally. We've got Asia Pacific, Europe, Latin America, which is Spanish speaking only, and of course this one, which is US. You can go to professionalvmware.com/brownbags for all of the information and registration for the webinar, past webinars, link to our YouTube playlists, etc. So again, our guest tonight is Ben Ford. He's going to be talking about Puppet Showoff. My name is Damian Carlson. I'm at 6footdad on Twitter. And now that the introduction is out of the way, I will go ahead and pass the ball over to Ben. There you are, sir. Oh, by the way, while he's getting set up, also, you know, as per usual, we have the vBrownbag conference call attendees muted just due to background issues, like background noise issues, etc. So if you do have a question and you're attending live, feel free to raise your hand, put a question in the chat box, or hit us up on Twitter. I'll be watching all of those things, and I can jump in and ask your question to Ben for you.
Okay. It's been a while since I've used GoToMeeting, so I'm trying to make sure that I've got the right things showing. You should right now just basically see a console window, a terminal window. Does that sound about right?
We see your entire desktop with the console window over the top of it.
Perfect. I'll be switching between a couple of different windows, so that is basically what I'm looking for. Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Ford. I build all the educational materials and all the tooling and whatnot for Puppet. I've been here for about, going on 5 years now. That's a long time. And we made a transition away from a handful of other tools about 4 years ago, and we looked around and we tried a whole bunch of the tools that were out there, and none of them really met our needs. One that came pretty close, though, was this thing called Showoff that Scott Shakon wrote. He's the kind of the author of the Git book that everybody's familiar with, and so we started using that. We then ended up using it so heavily that we ended up taking over maintainership and became primary developers of that about 2.5 years ago or so, 2.5, 3 years ago, and we have become the owners of this project. This is a web-based presenter, so basically you write your slides in Markdown, and then you fire up this tool that will serve out a website that allows you as a presenter to be able to interact basically like you would if you were running PowerPoint or Keynote or something. But it also has a lot of really neat interactivity features, which is kind of the reason why we wanted to use it, and the things that we've built into it. So it allows your audience to follow along. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But this is really, really useful when you have somebody who maybe might be visually impaired in a presentation or in a class or what have you, because they can have a copy of your slides right on their local laptop. So they can see your slides as you're going through them. They can navigate through the slides if they want, just like a document, like a PDF or whatnot. And they can also use what we call follow mode, which means that they can just sit there and watch it while it follows along with what you are presenting. We have a lot of other really neat interactivity features, and I'll get started with those. But I suppose we should start here. I'm delivering a presentation on a presenter, so kind of makes sense that maybe we should start out by building a presentation. So I have an EC2 instance that I've stood up. There's not really anything in it. It's just a machine that has Showoff installed. So I've got the latest version and the second latest version there. Nothing in my home directory. But let's say that I want to create a presentation. Showoff-help. It'll list out all of the options. One of them that I see is called Showoff init. We've got really good command line documentation. It tells me that I can give it a directory, and I can tell it not to do slides, comma listed slides. Okay, so I'll do that, Showoff init -d, and let's see. I want to have an intro. Actually, let me do this. Okay, dir presentation. Intro. We'll talk about the format of the slides, so we'll call it Markdown. Then I'll talk about how you can put code in your slides. Some interactivity features. Using files, forms, how you can publish it when you're done, and then a conclusion. Goes for a second, and then we have an example presentation. Made a whole bunch of demo slides. Give me a showoff.json. This file, showoff.json, is how we kind of define the metadata of what makes up a slide. By default, kind of the simplest way of running a Showoff presentation is without a showoff.json at all. If you simply run showoff serve in a folder of Markdown files, it will assume that you mean that each one of those is a slide and throw them up for you. But here, what I've done is I've put them put directories in place, so I can say I want these slides shown in this order. Notice I don't have the slide names in there. All I have is just the directories. That's the second level of how you can order the slides that go into your presentation. So here I'm saying these are the directories I want to show you, and simply show the slides that are in those directories in shell globbing order. I could also, if I wanted, show you put in each one of the files, and that way I have like complete control over which file I want displayed when, so I can reorder them on a file-by-file basis instead of depending on shell globbing order. This is kind of a good median right in the middle, so I'm going to do showoff serve at this point, and it just starts some stuff up. Not terribly exciting. And I will go to the presentation. And you see now it's just loading something up. Not very exciting, but that's how life is for auto-generated content. But if I want to be a presenter, I'll put in the, if I could type, I'll put in presenter, and now I'll get the presenter view. It's a little bit more exciting. There's more information to see. So I'll show you what all the different parts of this the interface are really quick, and then we'll go through and start building our presentation. To the left up here, we have the file name. That's just the slide that this particular the thing that you're looking at. That's the file name that slide came out of. If I were running this locally, I would be able to click on that file name and it would open up the Markdown editor that I have configured on my system. So, for example, if I were editing code, I could just run through and click that, and bam, I would be running my Markdown editor. I could type some things and then save it and then move on. Then there are a couple of menu entries here. Viewing stats, this shows what slides that people are looking at, so I can keep track of slides that people are going back to and are referring to in my presentation. If somebody is looking at a slide that's not the one that I'm presenting, it'll show up there, and it'll just kind of keep track, and it'll count them and show you what slides tend to get a lot of attention and what slides don't. There's also downloads. Right now it's empty, there's nothing in there. We'll come back to that. Display window, it'll pop open a new tab, and you notice that this is like an audience view of what this presentation is. So I'll drag that out, and I'm just going to stick it over to the side here, but let's pretend that that is up on the projector. So I'll make it real small because we don't actually care what's on it. You're just going to pretend it's there. And you'll notice that as I move along, that slide also changes. And I somehow got my things. What happened there? Oh, the tab bar did something weird. Okay. Now I can open up a little next window. I can throw that up on the side, and that'll show me the next slide that's coming up. So I can have an idea of what I'm about to talk about. And then down here at the bottom, this great big yellow area is notes. If you have a lot of notes there, or if you need to resize it or something or other, you can click the notes button and it'll pull it up on the side, and you can resize that however you want. Move it around, whatever. We don't have any notes yet, so that's not very exciting. Then you can also click the print button and it'll print your slides. Basically all it does is it just opens up the endpoint of print, and then it calls your browser print function. And then this final button allows you to just switch to the audience view. We also have a timer. So let's say I planned on this being 45 minutes long. I'll just throw that up, and this little green circle there is going to count down and count out 45 minutes, and it'll let me know when I've been talking too long. Sometimes I have a tendency to do that, so it'll yell at me. But now this is where it starts getting a little bit different, a little bit weird. There's this paste button. Let's see. Let me open up I'll open up a new window. I'll do it in Chrome, so it'll be very obvious that I'm not in the same. That, of course, opens up completely on the other monitor. So I'll pull it back over here. So I've got a copy of the presentation running as a student, and you notice, or as an audience member. And as you see, I can navigate around, and it just lets me do that. But once as the presenter switch, it starts switching slides to follow. I can turn that off if I want. Question mark will tell me, and it says to turn that off, I hit the F button. So I can do that, and now it's not in follow mode, and it won't switch anymore. But I was telling you about the paste button. That's the, oh, I didn't enable that. We'll come back to that, and I'll show you what that means. Same with the audience questions down here. But let's get started working on our slides. I'm going to jump to the beginning. I'll press 1 and hit enter, and it'll go to the beginning of the presentation. I'm just typing in the slide number. If I type 14, it'll jump to slide 14. Type 1, it'll jump to slide 1. And we'll go ahead and get started. This is in file intro 00 section. So in that file, I'm going to put some Markdown. Of course, to do that, I need to get into
Hey Ben, this is Damien. While you're doing that, I've got a couple questions from the audience.
Okay.
Are there any specific browser requirements? And is this just pure HTML5?
It is HTML5. Browser requirements are basically anything that's not ancient IE. So if you're running anything relatively modern, anything that is currently supported, it should work. We recently dropped IE10 support, or IE10. Microsoft has end-of-lifed everything that's not IE11 or above.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm using root because that's terrible, and that's how we roll. This is just an EC2 instance, so I don't care what happens to it. I'm going to throw it away when I'm done with it. Okay, so now I'm in my presentation again, and as you see over here, it's slide intro 00 section. Intro 00 section, and we'll go ahead and start working on that slide. That's pretty boring, so let's call it show off. Let's say using show off, and I'll save that. Now you see 01 slide. I'm not going to do this for every single slide. I'm just showing you how the numbers change. Now here's another one. Let's change this. It's just very simple Markdown. Using show off a presentation about a presenter. How meta. And then 002. Had a couple of bullet points. Let's see. Markdown requires 3 or more spaces. I don't know why that is. It's just one thing: audience, interaction, nifty widget. Let's see, audience tools. Follow along. Feedback and questions. Download things. And then content creation. That's a good one. Content creation. Command line tooling. We can do code validation. That's a very cool feature. And I'll call that good. Let's see what our slide looks like so far. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to reload the page, and I get nothing. Well, that's actually a little bit to be expected. The first time a presentation is loaded, Showoff will compile it for you, and it'll return that. And then every time afterwards, it'll return the compiled form of that presentation. This is really, really helpful when you have 20, 30, 40, 50 people in an audience. You don't want to recompile the presentation for every single one of those. But when you're developing, that's kind of a pain in the butt. So we have a command, R, that will expire that cache. So it'll throw away that compiled cache and reload the content. So I'm going to reload it. Now you see using show off features, and you see we've got that. Now, the bullets look kind of ugly. I really don't like this style. We're going to fix it next week. But in the meantime, I can style it any way I want to. So keep that in mind. I'm going to come back to that as we go through the Markdown slides. So let's get started on that. Markdown, and then 001. Let's see, what was I going to talk about? I have too many windows open. Okay. Markdown syntax. You're seeing this as I type it. Pretty obvious. Slides are written in Markdown. That is very cool for a lot of reasons. One of them is that it is plain text. That means that anybody can write them, anybody can read them, you can share them around, you can cut and paste, you can put them in an email, you can do anything you want with them. But even more important, they're versionable. This means you can commit them directly into a Git repository. You can do pull requests against them. You can collaborate amongst large teams. You can go back through your history and see the changes that you've made. It is about 1,000,000 times easier to work with Markdown or some kind of version control system. 1,000,000 times easier than using something like PowerPoint. I'm working with an external team right now where we're trying to develop a presentation. They are using PowerPoint, and they are struggling mightily to get 3 people collaborating properly. So, easy to read and write.
Yeah,
Now,
collaborative PowerPoint is kind of a non-existent thing.
it's beautiful. I love it. Every now and then
there's no good version control.
Every now and then we get somebody who comes in and they're like, "But I don't want to learn Git." Like, well, that's too bad, because that's what we do. Showoff has a couple of really neat extensions to Markdown, though. Some neat extensions. You can add your own styles. So Markdown allows you to, basically any text you type into a document, if I were to just write some words here, Markdown, the Markdown renderer would turn that into a paragraph in HTML. But what we can do is we can do style tags. So we can style paragraphs with style tags. Basically, if you use the first word of dot something, then Showoff will say, "Oh, hey, they meant for this paragraph to be styled with this particular tag," and all it'll do is it'll add that style to that paragraph. That's not very much on its own, but what it means is that you can add your own styles later on. You can add CSS. I'll show you what that'll look like in just a second, or I can do it right here. I'll show you what a callout style looks like. Hello there. This is a callout. Now, some other things that we can do. You can do section tags, and that will allow you to do handout notes and instructor notes or presenter notes. So this bit that you're looking at here in yellow is a presenter note. I can do that down here. And section. And then a bunch of other things. We can add downloadable files. We can do forms for polls and quizzes, etc. So let's see what that'll look like real quick. There's Markdown. Now this is a callout. It's not very exciting. There's just a box around it. But we can do other kinds of callouts. One that I use fairly often is the .info. Callout.info. Come on. And I made a typo down there. I made that same typo twice. That's odd. One there and one there. Okay. Oh, come on. This always happens when you do a demo live, right? Okay,
all the time.
Now I've got a call out. It's got a little icon next to it. Those are built into Showoff. So you can do like a call out info, call out warning, call out thumbs up. You can do all kinds of neat things. And then down at the bottom you have a presenter note. You also have a little flyout menu that allows you to see what the handout notes look like. And that's what the handout notes look like. The difference is that presenter notes show up here by default, and handout notes are what happens when you print out the slides. So if I were to print a slide, that would be attached to the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to cut and paste a little bit out of the docs for this next one, because I don't want to be typing all of it. I might end up cut and pasting a little bit more later on, so you don't have to watch me painfully type. Let's see. Come on. Okay. I'm going to set paste. And then I'm going to paste that crap in. I'll move on and do the next slide. Well, I'll show you this first. So this is Markdown configuration. And I left the incremental style up here, so I'm going to remove the incremental style and the bullets, because I don't want either of those styles. Those, the part that I just removed were slide styles, which will allow you to change how a particular slide looks like. You notice how some of them say subsection and some of them say incremental, etc. If I were to change this to subsection, it would put that headline right in the middle of the slide. So now I've got a nice little bullet list. These are the different Markdown engines that you can use. You would add the configuration for that in your showoff.json, and you can also add configuration options. So for example, red carpet gives you the ability to auto-link, or it lets you do tables or other things, and you can turn that on and off just by passing options in that JSON have. But Markdown isn't everything, right? There are a lot of things that Markdown can't do. Like, for example, if you wanted to put in a video, I should change the name because you don't actually, it doesn't have to be called that. I'll call it video, or HTML.md. So what I can do here is just type out that slide. I can add raw HTML. Just like a standard Markdown, if you need to go beyond the capabilities of what Markdown can do, you have to do it yourself. So Markdown allows raw HTML required for advanced usage. Now, what is one of those advanced usages? Something like doing a video. How about that? Center. I'm going to put a video in here. No, I'm not going to put a video in there because I didn't upload it. I did not. I'll show you the I'll show you the source, and it's not going to actually load because I didn't have time to upload the files themselves. But I'll show you what it would look like. A decent compromise there. We'll just put a video tag. No controls. And I'm going to say in here, my source, this looks a little bit weird. I apologize. That's something we're going to fix here. src equals assets some video.mp4. So you have to put in this little file part at the beginning anytime you're putting in raw paths, and that's because Showoff will interpret that part of that segment of the path as saying, I want a file off of disk out of the presentation. Otherwise, it will assume that you're trying to load part of the presentation itself. And I suppose I need to put a type in there too, don't I? Now, because I didn't upload it, you're not going to actually see it. Let me put controls on there so you can actually see it. It says it's loading and it's failing because there is no such video file at that place. You can see if I try to load it up there, it says file not found, and it looks like I also have a typo in there, but it doesn't actually matter because it wouldn't find it anyways. I see. There we go. But I could add something in there if I wanted to. If I had the time to upload it, and I won't make you watch me do that. But now I've been editing files by hand. I've created that one by hand. What if I wanted to have Showoff do some of it for me? Showoff, help. One of the things that it says is add. I can add a file. I can add a slide. How does that work? It says I can give it the directory it goes into. I can give it a name of the new slide. I can give it slide types, slide styles. I can put files. I can include files on that. But what I'll do is I'll just do Showoff add -d for the directory it's going into, Markdown, and I'll just let it put a new slide in there. And just wrote a new file in there for me. Vim Markdown 04. And here I'll show you how you can customize how you want things to look. So custom styles. I can add any CSS or JavaScript, and all I have to do is just put a .css file or a star.js file in presentation root. Now I'll show you what that style thing was I was talking about. What's a good name for the style? I'll just call it foo. Or I'll show you what the call-out warning looks like. And I'll say maybe this should be red. So what does this CSS look like? I don't need to put CSS in there directly. Just load this and you'll see it's nothing exciting. But now we can edit some CSS. So I'm in my Showoff presentation, styles.css, and I want to say foo font weight bold, because that should be really big. And then call out warning. What's a good color to use? Background color. I can inspect that really quick. let's say background color. I said I wanted it to be some variation of red, so let's try C66. That looks like a decent color of red. I'll use that. Background color C66. Get that out of the way. And now I wanted to fix those bullets. I told you that I really didn't like them. So let's do that. Bullets. List style initial. That'll give me my bullets back. And then I'll do bullets UL LI. And I want those to be okay. Now, if you noticed, I just hit reload. That is now bold. This is now red. I can change the color if we decide that that's not quite the right color of red that we wanted to use. Let's see. DB, that'll be a little different. Change that, and I can reload again, and it'll drastically change. I can go back over here, and now you see that my bullets are left aligned, and they've got the top level bullets back just the way I wanted it. Now, how did I know what styles to use? Same thing, I looked at them with the inspector, and I can see that this is bullets LI align left, or bullets UL LI align left. So that's most of what there is about the custom styles. You can do a little bit more, like for example, if you wanted to do a table, that's part of Red Carpet's default. I can say this is a heading, another one. They don't actually have to line up quite so perfectly. I'm just a little bit particular about that. A cell, another. And now you've got a Markdown table that's readable in text, and it's also readable as a table inside your presentation. Okay, so let's talk about code on a presentation. I'll do code in your slides. This is a centered subsection. You notice that. That's why it looks like this. Now I'm going to edit my code 01. Now I'll add code examples to my presentation with built-in syntax highlighting. Syntax highlighting. That's not terribly exciting yet. You notice that the syntax highlighting is broken. I'll come back to that and I'll show you why. I'm going to show you a couple of other things. Ruby 1, 2. Actually, I'll leave it like that. Okay, so there's something wrong there. I have a blob of weird stuff in the middle of my code. That's because Markdown doesn't know, the Markdown renderer doesn't actually know that you have a block there. It doesn't know that you have two separate blocks there. For all it knows, you could have just typed out code and had a new line in there. So let's tell it with a break tag that we want it to break in the middle. And so now there are two separate code blocks. Now that break tag isn't anything special. It's not some nifty trick in Markdown. What it is a paragraph style that Showoff recognizes. It's a special paragraph style that Showoff recognizes, and it means insert a break here so that the Markdown renderer will know that that needs to be two separate blocks of text. Okay, so let's see. Now, what if I wanted to execute code live? Like, what if I wanted to show off how you could execute code right from your presentation? Let's do that. And then I'll edit that file, code 02. Oh, come on. Oh, I see what I did. Yep, I will come back to that, Dan. So this one is my live execution, and I'm going to just add the little keyword execute and a keyword execute. If you have sharp eyes, you'll have caught something that I did. So now I have a couple of little icons there, little play icons down here. And first off, it's going to tell me I can't do that. It says you have to run Showoff with -X to enable code execution. That's a security measure because we're actually executing code directly on the Showoff server. So we need the presenter, we need the person who's presenting to acknowledge that there's going to be code executed and enable that with -X. Now, the code is never actually transferred over the wire, so there's no code injection there. You can't send Showoff code to execute. You can simply say, execute the first code block on slide 14, and Showoff will go look at the slide file on disk, and it'll grab that code and it'll execute it for you. So now we've enabled code execution. Come back here, and I'll try that again. It's running, doing some stuff, and it's going to crash. If you come back here, it actually didn't stack trace. I'm surprised that it didn't. But that is because there's a problem on my, oh, it finally did. I got it to stack trace. Because there is a problem in my code there. If you scroll up, you see there's a giant Ruby stack trace because I tried to eval code directly and I found a syntax error. Same thing will happen with the Puppet one. If I do that, it'll run for a little bit and then it'll come back with parse error. So how would I know that that were a thing? Let me get this out of the way. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but it kind of works right here. I'll do show off, validate. It'll run through, and it says, hey, you have some bad code. So I've got invalid Puppet code on this slide, invalid Ruby code on that slide, and invalid Puppet code and Ruby code on both of those slides. So let's go fix this one here. The syntax highlighting makes it pretty clear where the problem is. I'm missing a colon there. And then this, I'm missing a do right here. It's still trying to execute. That's funny. And now you see it ran, and it just returned the code. So it took 1, 2, and 3 and upcased them and returned them back. Now as a viewer, you can do the same thing. Oh, I pulled down the wrong one. I was supposed to grab the browser one. There we go. There. That is what it looks like right there. Now if I have my presenter window open, and if I have one window up on the projector, so let's say I've got this little window up on the projector, then when I click the run button, it'll actually run on the other window too. So you can see that if you had that up on the projector, all of your audience members are going to see that code execute directly, execute live. It knows how to run out of the box. It knows how to run Puppet code. It knows how to run Ruby code, Perl, Python, Shell script, JavaScript, and CoffeeScript. And it knows how to validate all of those as well. Okay. So I'll move on, and we'll talk about interactive things. Now on this one, oh, I'm a terrible typer. That's all right. I'm going to copy a little bit of the docs too, so I don't have to make you watch me. Set, paste. I'm a terrible typist. I don't know if you caught that yet. Okay, so there. Simple features, apparently. Simple features. Audience members get to open up the presentation in their own browsers. They can navigate back and forth. They can do follow mode. They can also give us feedback. You're talking too fast. You're talking too slow. They can ask questions, or they can give us feedback on individual slides. Hey, that slide's really, really terrible because it's, I don't know, says something offensive on it. But it won't do that right out of the box. You have to enable it. And we do that by setting feedback true in our showoff.json. Now, let me grab this. There's more information that you see in that little menu that pops up to the side. Now, if you want to, at this point, you can load up the slides yourself, and you can follow along. You can ask questions, and they'll show up over here, and all of that. I'm not sure if you can read the IP address. I think you probably can. But what I can say as an audience member is, come on, you're boring me to death. You got to talk a little bit faster. You got to move a little bit faster. And I click this button, and it says, you're going way too slow. You notice that this little pace indicator over to the left has moved over to the left. That's kind of like a speedometer in your car. It shows you how fast you're going. Here it's way over to the left. That means you're going too slow. And if you move too far, it has text that says, hey, speed up, come on. You can do the same thing going the other direction. And anybody in the audience can do this. So if somebody says I'm going too slow, somebody else says I'm going too fast, it kind of averages out. And you'll notice over time, I see that somebody has just told me to slow down. You'll see that over time, this will kind of decay back towards the middle, because it assumes that if you see this feedback that says, hey, you're talking too fast, that you're going to kind of take that feedback into account, and you're going to slow down a little bit. You're going to start kind of slowing down and explaining things a little bit more. So over time, about roughly 5 minutes or so, it kind of decays back into the middle. The other thing that you can do is you can ask a question. And by clicking this button here, ask a question, typing something in there, it'll show up in my window as a presenter down here in this audience question. And for breakfast today, what did I have? I think I had a piece of toast. It wasn't very much today. But I can ask a question. And when I ask it, I get a little box down here. I can see that I've asked this question. There's a little icon off to the left, a little X icon. And over as a presenter, I can come over here and I can click those that indicate that I've answered them. And now you see that it is grayed out here. So there's some back and forth communications. If I don't want to see that anymore, I can click that and make it go away. I can also send feedback on this particular slide. And I'm going to say that slide is terrible because you don't even know how to spell features. Now, this doesn't show up anywhere on the presenter. What it does is it saves it to disk in a file called feedback.json, because it assumes that this feedback is something that you're going to use as an author for the next presentation. The next time you deliver this presentation, you'll run through and you'll say, hey, so-and-so thought that this slide was terrible, and here are their suggestions for improving it, and it'll help you kind of interactively improve what you do. There's also this button here that says Downloads, and that opens up that same menu here. Like you said, download there. You can get download there. There's nothing on it yet. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Stop it. Files, come on. In there, I'm going to put a couple of files. And this is where what I was talking about, the section tags and the file tags, etc. I can slurp the contents of a file onto a slide. File.txt. I can have include syntax highlighting. What am I doing that file? So I'll call, there's a Ruby script, .rb, and I say I want that to be Ruby syntax highlighted. And if I make a typo or if I put files that don't exist or something, it'll just shout at me. So that's all right. So I come back here. It tells me non-existent files. Okay, so let's put something in there. Those belong in the underscore files directory. So underscore file, file.txt. This is a very non-interesting file. If it were interesting. And now it drops it in there. And you notice it does try to pick out what kind of a file type it is. So it's taken a guess as to what kind of file type it is. I don't know what it guessed, but it has syntax highlighted the word file, the word is. But it's still complaining about the missing script. Oh. Accidentally started Xcode. That was not a thing I wanted to do. I'm going to just paste in a little silly little script. Not very exciting. All it does is just print out a random word. But now it'll include it there, and it'll do syntax highlighting, which didn't happen to be particularly exciting there. Okay. You can also attach a file to a slide for downloads. So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to copy file 01 to file 02. Yes, I want to overwrite it. Let's let the audience download this silly script. Now to do that, all we do is we just add that add a download tag. Now, let me add a couple of caveats here. This was originally designed for classroom usage. So because of that, it was intended to share example code or example solutions after a lab was done. So when you make a file available using this download tag, the audience can only download it after the presenter has gone past that slide. So only available after Now the funny thing is as I'm presenting this and people are playing around, I don't know whether the little paste widget is actually intended to be real feedback or not. So do feel free to shout at me if I'm talking about something too fast or if I need to go back over something. I do have a tendency to do that sometimes. Okay, so now because I zipped past it, that file is available to download. I can show you again real quick because I didn't actually mean to do that. I'll start over. Now there are no files to be downloaded, but if I go past that slide, still no files. If I go past one, now it's ready to download. Now that's something that I'm not particularly happy with, and I'm going to change it in probably the next month so that you'll be able to attach it either to this slide directly so that as soon as you go to the slide it's ready to download, or download it on the next slide so it's still useful for our classroom usage. But that'll be in the next couple of weeks I'll do that. Okay. Next up, I think we're going to talk about forms. Forms are exciting. Let's see. I think I'm just going to copy an existing form. Okay, so now I'm just going to paste in an example. This is an example slide that we have actually in our fundamentals training. So there's a bunch of stuff there. I'll load it first. There must be something with Vim because it's. I thought I saw it doing that before. So for some reason, it is eating one of my tildes. Okay. So now there's a form that was written completely in Markdown. It lets you pick things. It lets you select from like check boxes. It lets you do radio boxes, etc. And now I'll pull this open in this, and I can say, I've been using Puppet forever, work in technical support and management, and I'm not prepared at all, and I'll hit the save button, and here we go. We have little bars that come down here that show me what the audience has answered. So I can use this as an kind of an interactive, like a poll. Is things we should talk about, or do you think this is a good idea, that's a good idea, or I could do quizzes. We kind of do quizzes in the classroom. We're kind of like checkups, so that make sure that people are following along and understanding what we're talking about. They aren't. These quizzes and polls are not tied to any single user. They're all anonymous. They're indexed by IP address, so there's no way that I could tell who answered what. This is just a way of getting a quick read on the classroom audience or the whatever. Now, if I want this to go up on the presenter, up on the keep. There we go. Because I keep reloading the slides. It's gone. Looks like I have a styling bug there I'll have to fix. I keep reloading the slides. I get them out of sync a little bit. So now let's say that I have this one up on the projector, and people are watching it, and they're taking these quizzes, and I've got answers coming in. When I'm ready to share them with the audience, I can hit this display result button, and now I see them displayed there. And I am going to file a ticket right now. Take a picture of that. we've just done recently done some major styling updates, and it looks like one of the things that we did actually broke that. So I'll make sure that we get that corrected and get a new release out real quick. These answers are stored in your presentation. If you look, there's a new directory here called stats that I did not create. And in that, there are a couple of files. If I cat the feedback, I don't know, maybe this is not a good idea. We'll see. It says, oh, we've just got my own, and somebody else saying it's great. This is the feedback. It's in a JSON file, so that it's really, really super easy to parse. There's the path of the file, there's the rating, there's the feedback, etc. Then there's the forms, which is the same thing, except there's a lot more in there. It records what the form ID is, and then it records what all the answers are in there. And then there's the view stats, which is basically the same kind of thing. And it looks like I may have lost my... Looks like I may have lost my EC2 connection here. That's not... Shoot. Give me a second here. Oh, it is back. Yay for EC2. There we go. We are back and we are ready to roll. Okay. And then the view stats looks like that. Okay. I think I was all ready to go back to the presentation. So let's look at this. Let's look at this form again real quick. This is form 01. It's just a slide. It's just Markdown. But in here I have to give it a special tag up on top that says I want this slide to have a form on it, and I want this form to have a name. So this is how we keep track of what answers go with which forms. You'll see down here I have this bit down at the bottom that shows what students or what the audience members have answered. That title there, the class info, is how I keep track of which goes where. And then down here, I have a special extension to Markdown where I can give it give each question a certain syntax. I give it a name. This is how I index into it in the JSON file when I'm looking at results. And then some text. That's what's printed out here. And then some answers. This is long form, so it's multi-line, open curly brace, close curly brace, a key, and then a value. So what gets recorded in the JSON file if somebody answered less than 6 months is that somebody answered the how long question with under. And this is pretty straightforward. Open curly, close curly gives me that combo box. Down here, I have some select boxes, or some check boxes. The job question has a title of what's your work role, and then there's a list of check boxes down here. Relatively similar to how Github does it in their comments. I can do some on the same line. So this has them both on the same line, yes and no. The round braces, the parentheses, those give you a radio, and then the square ones give you a checkbox. Now, what happens if I don't want those on the same line? I can just come over here, and I can say that should go here. I'll indent it a little bit. That should go here. My bin is nasty. I'll save that, and I'll come down here. And now you notice that it is now on multiple lines and not on the same line. Then to render this form, the questions, the answers, I put it down in the notes with form class info. The reason for doing that is that the reason for having a section tag that allows you to put it there is that it allows you a little bit more control over how you want it displayed. So you notice that up here I have some text, and that shows up at the top right there. Tell us about your background. But what I can also do is I can put it directly on a slide itself. So I don't have to have it in the notes. I can put it on a slide, and then I can flip to that slide, and everybody can sit there and watch it happen live. So I can do that real quick. I'm going to delete it from here. And I'll just put it, ate it again. I cut and pasted it and then ate it. I'll reload content again. There's nothing there. And what is it styling? Looks like I have found another bug. I apologize. I'm looking at the complete wrong. Yep. Okay. I apologize. That should have gone up there, but there is a bug that I'm going to have to fix. We actually almost never show the results live like that. We show them instead. We have it show in the instructor notes, then copy them up so that students can see the results in the browser, but only after everybody has answered. Okay, so let's move on and we'll talk about publishing. Publishing your stuff. This is one thing that I find to be really, really cool about the tool, is how many like developer-friendly functionalities that we've got. So I'm going to edit 01. Actually, there's a lot of stuff here, including a script, so I'm going to cut and paste this one. Okay, so Showoff allows you to do a handful of really neat things. If you just want a PDF, you can just run Showoff PDF and it'll spit out a PDF for you. If you just want HTML, you can run Showoff Static and it'll give you some static HTML. I don't think I have the WKHTML to PDF gem, so I won't do that one, but I'll do Showoff Static. And in the static directory, there's all the content. There's my index.html. That's a static copy of what this presentation is. That's not really all that useful to me right now, but what I can do is I can use WKHTML to PDF, or I can use prints or any other tool to turn that into a PDF file. I can also just run a script directly to build it all. Actually, it should be, that's all right. So now if I run build.sh, it'll sit there for a little bit because PDF, WKHTML to PDF is actually really, really slow. But now I have a file called presentation.pdf in there. And I can move that into move presentation.pdf into Files, Share. And now you can all download it by going to the download directory, page, and grabbing that PDF file. And there's a printed copy of what the slides look like. Notice that there's handout notes at the bottom. Same thing there. There's some not read warning. Go back. Something else you can do is you can actually publish directly to GitHub. I'll show you what that looks like really quick. Publish O2. So you can publish directly to GitHub using Showoff GitHub. It'll build a GH Pages branch for you and commit all your work, commit a static copy of all your work so that you can basically just run it and push it up to GitHub, and you have a like a hosted copy of your slideshow. So it needs this to be a Git repository in order to do that, so I'm going to git init and turn this into a GitHub repository. A Git repository so I can do something useful, and then I'll do Showoff GitHub. It'll do things for a second, and now it's all ready to push. We have a new GitHub branches page of GitHub Pages branch. Now, because I don't actually have a repository on GitHub for this silly presentation, I'm not going to push it. But what I can do is I can show you an example presentation that I've done. So it's just a Showoff presentation, and it does not have any of the interactivity features enabled because it's just a static copy, so it doesn't have a server backing it, but it's got the table of contents, so it lets you zip through, look at anything you want, and it's just static HTML that's hosted up on GitHub, and it took me 5 seconds to publish it. Okay. So with that, I'm going to kind of call it an end to the regularly scheduled presentation. Conclusion 01. And I'm assuming that we have a back and forth here where we can ask some questions, and I will hopefully get a couple of your questions answered, see if there are any things that you would like to know about, or anything I didn't cover, or anything I can go a little bit further on. While I'm at it, I'll also pull up the repository, github.com/puppetlabs/showoff, and there's a link to our webpage that includes all of our documentation here. So if you go to our webpage, lists out all the features, lists out a lot of the screenshots, just the standard stuff. Tells you how to install it. Gives you a link to the user manual, which is horrifyingly complete, but maybe not quite as readable. It's got everything you could possibly want in there, and you scroll for a very long time going through it. But it also has some little quick start guides. So going through Showoff, you can just run through and you can gem install Showoff init Hello World. It'll tell you how to get that started, tell you how to do multi-section slides, how to serve, how to edit the files locally, how to add custom styles, how to execute code, etc., etc. There are a whole bunch of small little tutorials off to the side there. Maybe this one would be the most interesting to somebody getting started, other than the quick start, is what goes into your showoff.json presentation file. Okay. I pull this open? Do I have? Darren, how do I take questions at this point?
I've been answering a few questions in the background that were mostly around Markdown itself. The only other question that I have so far is the one that I jumped in on earlier. But if anybody does have any questions now and you'd like to talk to Ben, please raise your hand within the webinar. There's a little hand button. There's also Twitter, Ben, either on hashtag vBrownbag. I didn't see anything out there, but many times our shows get more views after the fact, and then folks want to ask questions, what have you, due to schedules, etc. So yeah, hashtag vBrownbag, or they can just tweet you directly.
Perfect. I am quite happy to answer any questions that you have, whether you tweet me directly or whether you go through the vBrownbags. I'm sure that that'll be forwarded to me if needs be. I guess with that, do we have anything else that we need to go over, or should we call it a day?
No, sir. I think that's it. I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much for your time, Ben. I absolutely appreciate it. I know that other folks that have attended appreciate it as well. So yeah, with that, that ends our show for tonight. Just a note, we won't have a show next week due to 4th of July, even though it would be on the 6th, but we're still going to call it the 4th, so why not?
Awesome.
So, all right, sir. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Yes, sir. Thanks, everyone.